kiddos! Well, today we're going to be doing a challenge over on Sammie's Unicorn Dust Designs, and there's a playlist that'll be linked down below. And when you're done with the video, make sure to go over that playlist and watch everybody on it. We're going to be doing Try It Tuesday, and that means we're going to be doing other people's crafts in our own personalities, I guess is what you say. So I have 4 of those today, and I have one original one that I am so stinking excited about. It's the very last one in the video, so make sure to stay tuned till the end, and let's just get with it. All right, so the very first thing I'm doing is taking a tack cloth. We're going to make a big, huge porch sign. It's 12 by 36, which actually the board is only 11 1/4, but you know, when you buy a board, they say they're 12 inches, but they're 11 1/4. So very first thing I'm going to do is put an undercoat on it of white Waverly chalk paint. The top coat is going to be the blue coastal blue Rust-Oleum. I do not like this paint. It did not mix well. I couldn't shake it enough. I couldn't stir it enough. And so here in a minute, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Now, to prep my board beforehand, I sanded it down really good because this was just one I had, a piece of something I had in the garage. And so I was just using scrap lumber that I had. And so I took it outside and gave it a pretty good sanding, and I sanded the edges off on it. I didn't have to cut it all. It was actually just a leftover piece. Now I'm going through and I am putting little tick marks all the way down so I know where to lay my vinyl, because it's kind of like a reverse stencil. So you put the vinyl on, and then you paint over the top of it, and then take the vinyl off, and it leaves the undercoat. So on Sammie's, which I will link her video below to show you how she made hers, she used stain as her undercoat. I didn't have enough time to wait for the stain to dry. I was afraid it wouldn't dry in time, so I used the white paint, which actually matches my back porch. So I could have done either one. I could have used the dark stain, or I could have used the paint, but I went with the paint because I thought it would dry faster. So now I'm going to put the coastal blue on, and I put 2 coats on. The first coat, it just didn't cover well. You can see how it has different colors there. You think, oh, that's just lighting. Nope, it had different colors in the paint because it would not mix up. I should have had them shake it at the store, but I bought it at Walmart. So, anyways, so see, there's that dark spot there. That's actually not wet. That is where the paint left 2 colors. So it doesn't look bad when you're done, but it just was aggravating because I kept thinking the board was wet. And you see I'm touching it. I'm like, what? No, it's dry. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so I pull off the vinyl, and, you know, that also, you know, pulls off the paint where it, you know, so it leaves like a little, it leaves your wording. And now, a tip for you is, golly, geez, that was hard to say. A tip for you is that when you are putting down your vinyl, rub across it really, really hard. You want it to contact to that board really good so you don't have any bleeds. One way to not have any bleeds is to use Mod Podge over the top of it, but I felt like that it got a good enough adherence without it, and I only really had one little mess up, and I mean, it was tiny. So I was pretty happy with the whole thing, the way it turned out, you know, because I knew I was going to sand off the edges and make it look kind of rough, and what I'm doing with that paintbrush is just brushing that chalk paint off of there, because I started noticing that wherever that chalk paint was left, it started making blue marks on there. So I wanted to get it off before it actually rubbed into that white chalk paint. So now I'm putting the hanger on the back of it, and I'm just centering it, and I'm going to bang the table here in a minute. And then I decided, oh, I better turn the camera off when I do that, because, you know, it really goes. So, and then I'm going to sand it, and oh, look, it's shaking it again. Now, I did hand sand some of this, but for the most part, I took it outside because I forgot I had the white underneath, and I wanted the wood to show through. So I really got the wood grain. I love the way it turned out. Now you've seen my version. Go over to Sammie's channel, and I've linked her video below that I copied this off of. Go over there and check her video out. I just wanted to take time to say a big old thank you to Sammie over at Unicorn Dust Designs for letting me co-host today's play challenge, Try It Tuesday. And so I just want to say thank you, Sammie. She's so sweet. She answers any questions that any of us have, and she takes time out of her day. And I know she's a busy person, you know, especially with 2 little kids. And then she has a 40,000 plus channel, 40,000 plus channel. Wow. Anyway, so she has a huge channel that she takes care of. She chats all day long with everybody, and she helps me personally all day long. So, and she does that with another 30 or 40 more people. She's just the most caring and giving person. And I just want to say, mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you, Sammie, for all you do.
All right, this next one I copied off of Christi over at Christi Creates. She's a good friend of mine. First thing you're going to need is 3 of these frames, and I got these, of course, at Dollar Tree. These have like a glass in there, and I'm scratching that saying off of there with a razor blade. I did all 3, and then I, of course, washed them down with Windex and paper towel, trying to clean up the mess that I made, because that stuff like had static cling and it did not want to come off of there. So then I cut these letters out, just basic Roman Times font, the E and EAT, and Christie's was a vertical sign, and mine is going to be a horizontal sign because I want to put it on my refrigerator on my back porch. So everything I'm making today is for my back porch because I'm doing a redo. So the first thing I do, like I told you before, is I'm using the Mod Podge to create a barrier around that vinyl so that it doesn't leak underneath it. Okay, so I was afraid the glass would leak underneath. Well, what I found out was when you put Mod Podge on glass, that when you put the paint over it, it crackles the paint. So I didn't wait long enough for it to dry. But there's your lesson. Make sure you wait for your Mod Podge to be completely dry. So now I flip these over because I've got Mod Podge on the front and the lettering is on the front. I flip them over to the back because this is a clear glass. If you had a piece of white paper, you could put that over the back. You would not have to paint it, but I painted mine, of course, Waverly White. And then I go back in with this blue coastal blue from Rust-Oleum. Still having problems with it. And as you can see, I put a thin coat on the glass because I wanted it to dry. I did wind up putting 3 coats on here and sanding between the second and the third coats because it did start having a crackle finish to it, and that was not what I wanted. So once I get the frames and the inside painted, I let it dry. Of course, 3 coats, like I told you. The plastic, it did really well on the plastic. I'm not sure what's the difference in the plastic and the glass, but it did really good to adhere to it. So I'm not sure what's going on with it. So now when I let it dry really well, make sure it's really, really dry. Then I go back and I peel the vinyl off, just like I did on the sign, and it leaves my letters and my backing on the back. So I spell it all out. And then I put it upside down and I start gluing it together. You're going to see here in a minute that, what a big old mistake, because I put it on the wrong side of the E. I should have just put glue on both sides of the A and not worried about it. But, you know, your girl, she gets busy and I gotta hurry. So anyway, don't do like I do. Do as I say, not as I do. That's my motto. I'm going to get me a shirt that says that because good grief, gravy. Anyway, so, all right. So I flip it all over and this is where I messed up. Look, I'm looking at the E and I'm going, okay, wait a second. I got them in the wrong order. So then I have to wipe it all off. Now, once it dried, nobody could see it, but me and my pride were hurt a little bit. And so then I go back and I put my E6000, my hot glue, stick them together. I use my little clamps and I put them together and let it dry. And then once it's dry, I go and, ooh, look, she's so happy she did it right. I go and I get me some beads and I'm going to make me a hanger. Okay, so here's my second mistake. So I'm gluing it on, and I take my piece of tape like Christi did, and I taping it on, put the hot glue and then put the piece of tape over it, and then I pull it up. And look, I put the hanger on the bottom side of the sign. Yeah, there I go. So guess what? Had to take it apart and redo it. Now, to thread those beads, I put a little bit of Scotch tape on the thread, and then I beaded them through the thread, and that works so much easier than trying to poke that through there, especially since, I didn't have a needle. Now, here it is on my fridge, and it turned out great. Now, go over to Christi's. Her video is linked below, Christi Creates, and you can see her version of this. So this next one is a bird cage that I'm making with 3 of these gold baskets. Now, I got this idea from Heidi Sonboul. She used hers was bigger, and she made a big bird cage with the hanging flower baskets. But guess what? I couldn't find any of them. So I'm like, what else could I do that's basically the same? And I had these 3 wire baskets, and I thought, I'll just make me a small bird cage out of these. So I cut the bottom ring off of all 3 of them. I cut the top or the bottom out of 2 of them. And you're going to see where I first take, and I'm just bending. I cut them wrong. What I should have done is exactly where the basket bends over. I should have cut 2 of them right there and left only the middle ring and the long ends on each end of it. And then I could have just used the top. So the way that you put this together is you take the one basket and hook all of the little things to the left, and then you hook all the things to the middle on the second basket. And then you take your pliers and pinch each little hook when you hook them on, because you should have exactly enough to go around. You hook them all together. What I'm doing now is I'm looping them over, and you're going to see I did it wrong the very first time. Again, do as I say, not as I do. New t-shirt coming out, I'm telling you. And anyway, then I hook them together, and then I just take my pliers and crimp them and crimp it down. Now, I'm not going to leave this one gold because this, again, is going on my back porch. So I'm not really concerned with messing up the gold on the frame. Now, if you wanted to keep it gold, you might want to use some jewelry pliers for this instead of the pliers that I used that left marks on the metal. That's the difference in this. I'm going to spray paint this white. And so here in a minute, you're going to see, that I do that. But anyway, so at first I leave both baskets a bottom and a top. But when I got to looking at it, it was just way too tall. So that's when I cut the second bottom out. That's why I said you need 2 with the bottoms and the bottom, well, I guess it's the top ring and then the bottom of the basket cut out of them on 2 of them. And the other one, you just cut the bottom ring off of. So here in a minute, you'll see where I try to, I'm thinking I'm going to bend those prongs in and make a bottom to the basket. That does not work. They're not long enough. They won't stretch. So you do need to cut them off and just leave the middle ring on one of them. So it turned out super cute. It took me a total of maybe, I'd say 30 minutes in all to make it. That the spray painting took longer than anything else. The knob that I use on the top comes from one of those splatter screens that you put on the skillet to keep grease from flying everywhere. But you could use a ping pong ball. I think that's what Heidi used, was a ping pong ball and a mason jar. The flat lid thing, the thing that seals to the jar. She used that and a ping pong ball to make her knob. So anything like that would work. Anything round or a little knob. I thought that the end, if you cut the snake's tail off, would be really cute on there. I just used some E6000 to attach the lid or the handle from the splatter screen, and waited until it dried, and then I took it out to the garage and sprayed it. I did try to take it outside, but the wind was blowing so hard, even in a box, I couldn't keep the spray paint on it. So I had to take it in the garage and leave the door up and spray it in a box. So that worked out pretty good. See, there you go. I had bent them over thinking that would work, and it didn't. They just weren't long enough. But it still turned out cute, and, you know, I liked it. So here I am. I'm taking some of that boxwood that I got from Walmart, and I'm hot gluing it to that knob just to hide, because I think it says like made in China or something on there. So I didn't want that to show. So here it is on my back porch, and I put a little candle in there and decorated it, the little tray. Now you could use a glass plate from Dollar Tree for the bottom of it. I found a glass saucer, but I didn't have time to paint it white. This next one is a dupe that I am taking from Bargain Bethany. The link for these beads I got off of her channel, so I'll link them below. They were on Amazon for $13. I'm going to say that this was my least favorite of all the DIYs I did today, only because I messed it up and didn't follow the instructions correctly. Imagine that. So this bag comes with 6 different sizes of beads, and I use 4 sizes of them. So for the first 3 strings, I string up some beads. I will leave the pattern below, how I strung it up, and the number of beads that I used. This, it was just time consuming. It was super easy to do, but I used the wrong ring. I used a 12-inch ring, and I should have used an 8 or a 10-inch ring, and less beads on each strand. I think in the end, what I'm going to do to fix it is I'm going to buy another bag of beads and add more strands of beads to it. I just want to be honest with you up front. Do not use the big ring, use the smaller ring, and use less beads on your rows. But I will include all of the ones that, or the pattern that I did use on here. Now, so I make 3 of each on the big ones. I make three different sizes of beads. I make 3 different sizes of strands of beads. And as you can see, I've got them laid out there in order, and I've counted them out as I need this many for each one. So here in a minute, I'm showing you how I go from smallest to bigger and then back to small. So that's how the beads lay out. They go small, medium, large, large, medium, small. And that makes the graduation of the beads. Okay. That was hard to say. So now I'm showing you that I'm making there are 6 of these strands, 3 each of 2 different strands. So there's 6 of these strands is what I'm trying to say. And they go in between the big beads. So I go from small, medium, large to medium, small. I graduate the beads going in and out. So when you hang them, the largest ones are at the bottom. Boy, I hope that's right. Okay, so to get them on there, just like in the last video, I put a little piece of Scotch tape, and I know you can see me do it in one at the very beginning. I put a piece of Scotch tape around the twine, and that helps me make a fake needle, basically, to go through you have to roll it pretty tight, but, it helps poke it through the beads, and it helped me get the strands of, without having a needle to do it with. So, because some of these beads, I don't know that a needle, the littlest ones, it would have went through. But I know there's those beading needles that you can get, and I've never bought one. But you could definitely try that. So, see how almost. I decided I needed a couple more to make it a little bit longer than the smallest one. And again, I'll leave you the pattern, but again, I'm saying don't use my pattern. So here I go, and I'm going to tie the beads on. Another thing I should have done was I should have painted my ring. I did not like that. This ring actually comes from that big floral ball, but any of the rings on there. There's a small one and a big one. This is the largest one, and I should have used the smallest one of this one, and that would have made this a whole lot nicer. I mean, it's okay. It's just there's not enough beads on this. And like she said, she only used like an 8 or a 10 inch round. I should have used the same, but I'm just going to order more beads and make it work for me better. So I'll show you that in another time, hopefully soon. But anyway, so now I got all the large strings tied on and the small strings. You can see how I vary the strings back and forth. Now what I'm doing now is I'm going through and I've clipped most of the ends off of it, but not very short. And I'm taking E6000 and I'm putting it all over the knot, so that, because this one's going outside, so I don't want the rain to kind of rot the twine. It's going out on my covered screened in porch, but still yet I was still a little bit nervous about leaving it there. So I go and I take this little skewer stick and I cover every knot with E6000 until it dries. Now I've got more of the twine that I used to thread the beads, and I'm just making the holder going all the way up. Again, if I'd had more beads, I would have covered those strings with beads. But again, that costs more money. So, you have to decide how much is enough on this. Of course, these things sell for anywhere from $150 to $300. So I don't think that I wasted my money for 13 bucks. And this, I guess the ring was $1. So for 14 bucks, I don't feel like I wasted it. Now I waited till these were dry, and then I went back and clipped all the little tiny ends without cutting the knots, so that I wouldn't have a bunch of flyaways. And then I've gotten my strings tied in the middle. There we go. And I'm just making knots, and I'm going to hang it up. Now, Bethany's channel is linked below with where the video is, so you can actually see what it looks like when you do it right. All right, so this is my original one. So the first thing you're going to need is you need 4 of these trellises. You need a ton of zip ties. You need some pliers that you can bend metal with, like I'm doing right there. You're going to bend the stakes that go in the ground. You're going to bend them in an L shape, and then all the little pieces on the sides. Sometimes there's big pieces, sometimes there's no pieces, but bend them all to the inside. We're going to be making a box or a vase or a planter is what it comes out in the end. Now do 4 of these just like that. See where I'm going around, bending them all in towards the center, because you don't want anything to be left out poking, and then make your little legs come in. You need 4 of those. Now you're going to take your zip ties and you're going to zip tie them together. So first thing I noticed though was that the curly cues were getting in my way. So I bent them backwards so they are sticking the opposite way of the legs. So the legs go left and the curly cue goes right. Okay. So then I start fastening them together with this black zip ties, or whatever color. If you want to spray paint it, you could use whatever color you wanted. I got the black ones and I wanted them to be black. So I just got black zip ties and used them. Now I've got the great big ones here. Use the tiny ones. You do not need the big old black ones. Use the tiniest ones that you can find. And try to match them to the color of your thing. If you don't, it's going to be fine too, but use the small ones, because we're going to cover all of them anyway in jute here in a minute. So it doesn't really matter. So now that I've got it all kind of zip tied, or I'm still zip tying, but you zip tie it at the top, the bottom, and then the center of each of the legs, or the center where the legs come together. I wanted to make sure that none of those popped out, those legs. And so that kind of gave it more stability. Now then, what I'm doing now is I'm going to start bending. No, I'm cutting the tabs off of my zip ties. It's hard to tell when you're recording on this thing because it covers half of the video, so I'm guessing half of the times. So now what I'm doing, you see, is I'm taking the corners where those are and I'm bending them out just about an inch or 2, so that they come to a point at the curly cue. And you can see what I'm talking about, because now I'm going to tie around each one. I'm going to take jute and I'm just going to wrap it around that joint, and that's going to hold it together. And I've like take about I'd say it was probably a 2-foot piece on each joint. So anywhere there's a zip tie, you're going to cover it with jute. And I go around the top, the bottom, the middle, all the way around it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a liner for it. I really wanted to use a pillowcase from the Dollar Tree, but I could not find anything but red, and right now red is just not in. So I took this burlap that I had bought at a yard sale, which I know came from Walmart. I got 4 rolls of it for like, I think it was $3 a piece, and so I'm going to use it. Now, you could have just used a plain piece of burlap. You could have used any kind of material. You could even use one of those scarves at the Dollar Tree. I just didn't have them. Now, I'm going to show you what I did wrong. I'm making a bag is what I'm doing to begin with. Is I first just think, I'm going to make this into a circle and then put it down in there. Well, I didn't measure it well enough. I should have done a little bit more measuring. In the end, I decide to cut the pieces, cut each side a piece, and make a corner out of it because it made more of a crisp edge. So I just waller the far out of this thing here, and you're going to see all the things you shouldn't do, okay? I'm even cutting it up, and it's not working. I've used my clips to hold it. I know how to sew. I don't know why I made this such a big deal, but I did. So I take it back apart. I cut pieces out of the burlap, and I do it the right way. Hopefully you'll see that in a minute where I wallered that. See how I got it way too big? I could have just cut it down, but I was getting impatient. And so I should have just cut it down. But I decided I was going to just cut me 4 pieces and make each side their own little thing. And I cut it crooked as a dog's tail. Or I guess it's a dog's leg is what they say. Crooked as a dog's leg. And I just didn't even get it right. So I know how y'all like my little sayings. So that's one I'm sure y'all ain't never heard of. But anyway, unless you're old like me. But anyway, a dog's tail. It was a dog's leg. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway, so I just hot glue it because it's not going to make any difference once it gets in there. And then once I put all the flowers in, you're not going to see that hot glue. So, and this is just, to sit in the corner, somewhere, or sit on a table, sit by the door. It turns out super cute. I was so excited about it. So I hot glue all 4 sides together, and then I'm going to rotate it. I'm leaving the bottom of it open too. I should have said that. I left from the lace. See, I left the lace up open so that I can make the bottom of it. Because I don't want the material to go all the way to the top. I just want it to go part of the way up. Which is one of the problems with it in the first place. So, I hot glue it and make it like a little box is what I'm making. And then I get it in there, and I'm going to put my clips in, and then I'm going to fold the bottom down like it's a box, and I'm going to just lightly hot glue it, so in case I want to take it out and put something else in there later, that I can do that. I'm not going to because I really like the way it turned out, and burlap goes with everything in my opinion. So especially if you've got like farmhouse and country, burlap's the way to go the first time around. You might not like that lace piece, but that's the burlap I had. I was out of just regular. So and it kind of went with my Easter theme. Like I told you girls, I like Easter ought to be lacy. So anyway, that's my theme. Lacy Easter this year. So I'm cutting the tabs on this thing. That's where I had that extra hot glue. I just cut it off. So I'm cutting the tabs so they kind of have like a slanted edge. So when they go in, they're not buckling over the top of each other. I want to give it extra room on the sides. So when I go to hot glue it, that it's not just like got bulky fabric everywhere. That's the reason for doing that. Just like if you were making an envelope and you trimmed it. So that's all I know how to explain it as. But, now, see, I didn't even glue it really good on the bottom because I knew it wasn't going to carry anything heavy in it. Because, first of all, it's made with Dollar Tree trellises. It's not going to be something that you can use something heavy in or carry something heavy in. So, what I did to get the basket or the bag to stay on there is I took a really thin piece of floral wire, some silver, and underneath each one of those knots at the top where I tied it with the jute, I took a little silver piece and I twined it around. Now we're going to decorate it. First I was going to use bags, and then I found that old pillow stuffing, and I was like, this will make it stand out even better than that, because I run out of sacks. Who runs out of sacks? I don't know. Normally I got 5,000, but apparently I've been throwing them away. I don't know. So there is 10 or 15 of these boxwoods in this, and they're $1 a piece. But this is a big old flower arrangement. So once you start it, you really got to fill it up with flowers. So if you had like a big fern, that would be good too. I also took some of those pink ones, and I had 5 of those. So there's 20 bushes of flowers in there. But if you've bought flowers lately, you know how expensive they are otherwise. So I got that. That's that Dollar Tree ribbon that I got at Easter, and I can change that out. And I can also plug those, you saw me, I didn't glue anything in, so I can take it back out and change it as the season goes. So I could change the ribbon out. I can change the colors of the flowers. When summer gets here, I could put some little red berries down in it, and I can change the ribbon to a 4th of July theme. And, in lickety split, I got me a new flower arrangement, and for $5 or $10. So this is something that you can change out all year long. And I'm hoping to be able to start a new channel which shows my home decor. And when I do that, these pieces like this, I'm going to show you how I change them out. So I'll refer you back to here to see how to make it, and then I'll show you how I change it out every season. So I just make a stacked bow, and I wire it on to the other piece, and then I did take 2 different ribbons. So that bow, I think I used almost every bit of the blue and I know I used every bit of the Easter, and made the bow on there. I wanted it to be pretty. So, for $2, I've got this giant flower shop bow. Don't be afraid to use that ribbon. It's $2, and it makes the product actually makes it look 10 times better when you use enough ribbon. Now, here it is on my back porch. I want to thank you guys, and I hope that you like, comment, and subscribe, because that really helps my channel out. It helps me know what's going on and if people are responding to what I'm doing. I wanted to tell you that I put this by my front door next to my egg topiary that I did in my last video. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know in the comments.
Y'all help me hit a milestone this week. I hit 1,000 subscribers. Well, it's this last week, but y'all help me hit 1,000 subscribers, and I got my YouTube hours, and so I am now an officially paid YouTube person. Hostess, I think is what it's called. I'm not real sure. Anyway, I wanted to thank you. It meant the world to me. I've been so excited all week long. Now I can actually get paid for doing this. So it took me 4 months and 7 days, but I made it. So I just want to try to encourage anybody else that's out there that thinks they can't do this. Yes, you can. You can do it. You just have to put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work, but you can do it. So thank you guys. I appreciate it, and I hope you all have a blessed Easter weekend. I'll see you next week.